Shade Tree Committee meeting. We'll call the meeting to order by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Super. So Trish just informed me the first order of business is actually to determine who will chair the committee in 2019. I was the chair in 2018. Jack served previous to me. So I believe the way this works is we have a nomination and then we do a vote. So are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Eileen for chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other nominations? I'm happy to support anyone else.
I'll nominate Jack for vice chair. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, so all in favor? Trish, did you want to say something? Okay, so all in favor of, sounds a little odd, myself as chair and Jack as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. We're off to a start. Okay, so meeting minutes for December. Any comments, or can we approve them as is? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, very good. Okay, so now we'll go through new business. We'll start off with 905 Wooten Road. And if you can just introduce yourself, give us a brief overview of your project, and then tell us about the trees being removed, the trees being replaced, and your tree protection fencing and any egress plans.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Shade Tree Commission for Radnor Township. My name is Dan Archdeacon. I'm with Catania Engineering, here on behalf of Darhan Construction. The plan with, I guess they're having, we would be having 10 trees removed total. They're proposing a house and stormwater management and some other site improvements. There's a tree replacement table on the plan.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
There's a tree replacement table on the plan. It's over here. It has 10 trees being removed and I believe 16 being replaced. 18 being replaced. And of them 18, 8 will be large canopy trees. There's also a number of large diameter trees along the property line that will be protected with tree protection fence. There's also a detail on the landscape plan here for the tree protection. And there's a planting schedule for the replacement trees to be planted, which can be shown on the grading plan here with their locations.
Eileen, the applicant was before us a month ago, I believe, and I think some of the issues were tables weren't properly on the plan.
Right.
And some of the math might not have been correct on the replacement formula. But I don't think we had any issues besides those, if my memory serves me.
Okay,
Yes, I believe that was all updated since last month.
yeah.
There is one more thing. Just in the back left corner, there's a shed to be removed, and there's a big, looks like a 60-inch tree back there behind the tree protection fence. If they're using machinery, just kind of make sure that they put the fence back to protect that tree.
Okay, and for me, I can't see the tree replacement table, because it's not quite in focus there, and I can't get it online here. But for those of you that can, does the formula work?
So basically, we have the, I guess, each diameter tree listed, and then its equivalent replacement tree.
Can't see it either.
Yeah. Can you point out the 42-inch tree that you're removing?
The 42-inch tree is actually right in I would say, the center of the house. Center of the house is right here. So it would be at this point right here. That's the 42. What we did is, during the last meeting, prior to the last meeting,
Yeah.
I took advice from a couple of people on board,
Yeah.
kind of shelved it till this meeting. With that being said, we went back and moved the proposed pool house, the pool, moved everything down. We actually had the turn.
Can you speak into the microphone just so it's getting
Oh, I'm
recorded?
sorry.
Yeah.
What we did is we actually moved the pool house pool down so we would save the trees in the back. With that, we also redesigned the driveway turnabout so we would also save the, I believe it's a 36-inch tree.
Okay.
Even though we could cut into the drip edge, we still, having an issue with that. With that being said, we tried to minimize everything that we, were taking down before.
Yeah.
The trees that we are taking down, the one that's a 42, on the picture right here, this is the back house. If you're looking to it from the front, it's the right-hand side. That's the 42-inch tree right here. Just seeing whether or not I have a better picture for you. And from the back of the house, back corner, which would be about right here, that's actually this tree right here, the 42.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, that's something that we can't save. We tried our best with moving things. So even the front of the house with the curve of the driveway, trying to save the trees and the magnolia tree that's out actually in front. That's why we flipped the driveway.
Okay.
Because if not, we would have had to take out the magnolia tree and take out a lot more.
Yeah.
So there is a couple trees on here that are on the property line that we didn't have protection around, but it will have protection around. So, and by the way, my name's Chris Darhunt, Darhunt Construction.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
I didn't introduce myself.
Yeah, no, that's
Um,
okay.
So,
I asked because that's our main concern, the larger the heritage trees. But I understand if that's basically square in the middle of where the house is, I could see where that would be difficult. But I do appreciate you moving around the driveway and the house otherwise to save other trees.
no, I mean, like I said, the homeowner that had the property before, Ed, he had a lot of beautiful trees. In fact, we're saving, I'll show you the one that we're saving right now. We're saving one of the trees in the back. No, it's good. Yeah, no, it's actually, we're saving a spruce tree that's on the back corner
Okay.
of the property, because he planted it. It was a really nice tree. So we're trying to save whatever he planted,
Okay,
so.
okay, great. Any comments or questions? No? Okay, motion to approve? Okay, aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yep. Okay. Next up is 820 Darby Paoli. Thanks, Matt. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Brian Mattson from Mominy. We're the civil engineers for the project. The project includes the demolition and removal of the existing house and driveway. This is the existing house right now. In the backyard, there's a sand mound currently. The proposal also includes extending the sanitary sewer across the neighboring property through the backyard to provide public sewer service for the new house. Here's the proposed plan, bringing in a new driveway in the front, circular driveway out in front of the house. And the new house, there's an underground stormwater system proposed in the front yard, and we're proposing 2 rain gardens in the back of the lot. We're proposing to take down trees on both the 820 Darby Pioli Road site as well as the 834 Darby Pioli Road. The 4 trees we're taking down on the 820 Darby Pioli are along the front, these 4 trees here, along the edge of the new driveway.
Brian, what's your egress here?
Excuse me?
Where's your egress coming into the property?
How are you going to get to the construction site, basically, what you're building?
Construction entrance is coming off Darby Paoli Road, up in this location. So the proposed plan includes the removal of the 4 trees on this lot. We're proposing a replacement of 12 replacement trees. And on the neighboring lot, 6 trees are proposed to be removed with 1 replacement tree.
Okay. And can you show us your replacement schedule, the table?
Yes, so on 820 Darby Paoli Road, we're proposing to remove the 18-inch poplar, 22-inch, and the 2 32-inch poplars. And those are all located along the front of the driveway. The 12 replacement trees are along the frontage and side yard, and 2 more in the side yard back here. And then we separated the tree replacement calculations for 834 Darby Paoli Road. These are the trees that we're removing here with the replacement tree in the back.
So here it lists a total of 20 trees, and I'm just a little confused. It sounds like there's 2 properties, 820 and 834, is that
Yes,
right?
yes.
And how many trees are being removed on each property?
There are 4 trees on 820 Darby Paoli, and there are 6 on 834 Darby Paoli. For a total of 10 trees.
Okay, so Trish, I don't know if you can help us out. Is this perhaps a typo? It says 20 trees being removed?
I would have to look at the application. That's where I get it off.
Okay,
It's very possible I do that.
okay.
How many you say you're removing?
There are
Total.
a total of 10
10.
trees to be removed.
6 and 4. So,
Is there any chance of doing a driveway that's not circular, so you could save a couple of those trees there?
Well, I know it's.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
well,
Could you
I know
speak?
it's the owner's desire for the circular driveway.
What is the nature of the trees that are being eliminated by the drive?
I mean, they're in good shape, good condition.
And how big are they?
They range in size from 18 inches to 32 inches.
So they're substantial.
yeah, and it's really more so the heritage trees, those above 30 inches. Can you point those out directly?
So, 32-inch trees. There's one here at the corner where the the entrance off of Darby Paoli Road, where the driveway swings in across the front. There's a 32-inch poplar right here. And the other 32-inch poplar is this one right here.
Right. And I guess we just have to ask the tough question. Has the owner thought at all about moving the driveway back a little bit to save those 2 trees?
Well, I don't know how much room, I don't know how much room there is to move the circle driveway back.
That's a gigantic driveway. That driveway, the footprint of that driveway is probably bigger than the house. Gigantic driveway. It's, you know,
Pretty cool.
usually the township does not encourage, in a lot that size, to put that much impervious space, impervious surface on. And what's the point of it? It's like, do you have like 10,000 people coming around? You have to have a circular circulation to keep people from crashing into each other. I mean, I don't even understand what the purpose of that huge of a circular driveway,
Yeah,
except as maybe
but I don't think we can question
No, no,
why
but I'm just-
a
well-
resident wants to do whatever it is they want to do to their
We
property.
can ask people to change plans to
Yeah,
save
that-
trees.
That we
Okay,
can
so
do, but
I think it's okay to ask why they need that. I mean, they could look at the fact, do they need that big of a, and that kind of a driveway to get cars in and out of that residence? Because, I mean, the 2 biggest trees are being taken down right as a result of that circle. If there wasn't even a circle there, it probably could take the construction between those trees.
Well,
I mean, my only,
I think it'd be difficult to save this 32-inch tree
Well, it might be, but.
without the circle.
I mean, I don't want to read people's minds, but the only thing I can say about this situation is that road is very busy. Because I couldn't even stop to take a look at the property. I had to dive in another driveway. And I'm wondering whether that driveway could be designed for, you know, for getting people in and out, in and off that road more easily than
Yeah.
if you just have one slot that comes in. And I'm guessing, but I
Yeah,
know
that makes
that's-
sense.
I know that
Yeah.
road's tough.
Yeah, that would be a reason, certainly, to keep, you know, for people to stop either going out or get out of the way of people coming in.
Yeah.
can
You look at that at planning, right? Has this been to planning yet? This would go to planning after this, right?
This hasn't been to plan.
And what may help the cause is if you can talk more so about the trees that you're putting in, since you're taking out these 2 large heritage trees.
Okay.
That will help.
Well, the proposed plan includes 5 new red maple trees along the frontage. So the 5 new red maples are shown here. There's 1 more red maple tree shown right here. Along the side yard, there are 4 Norway spruce trees proposed. And then the side yard on this side, there are 2 sweet gums.
And do you have tree protection around the other trees?
Yes, we do.
I can't tell from my phone.
This plan shows the proposed tree protection. So there's tree protection along the front edge of the driveway and also along the side yard and all along the back, along the edge of the limit of disturbance.
So the other thing is in your formula, what I see for 820 is I think you're a little shy on the trees being replaced. By my math, I get that you need to have 16 trees, 10 of them being large canopy. and you show that you're only putting in 12 replacement trees.
Well,
Am I following that correctly?
I think the calculation is based on 5 trees being permitted to be removed without replacement.
There we go.
The replacement trees are based on the 2 heritage trees.
Yeah, it
That
doesn't,
wouldn't apply. Yeah. That wouldn't apply to this. First of all,
Would not.
you can't even break up these 2. I don't know if that's why you broke up the 2 removal things, but it's all one plan. So the removals really should all be in the same plan, and the replacement should be in the same plan. And if in total, how many trees are you removing in total?
there's 10 trees
10
being removed in
total.
total,
Yeah.
6 on one property, 4
So
on another.
that's below 5. I don't, that's some kind of machination there. to
Let
get
me, let me clarify. So you have 820 Derby Paoli, you're removing 4 trees there. So you're right, if none of them were heritage trees, you wouldn't even need to come here. But 2 of them are heritage trees. So that's why 820, then by the math, would require 16 replacement trees.
Okay.
And then I would propose then we look at 834, which has 6 trees, which would trigger you coming here, even though none of them are heritage trees. So I would actually break up the 2 properties.
The other property is because of the driveway coming in?
Yeah, on this
Brought in?
property, it's because of the sanitary sewer
The sanitary
extension.
sewer.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I thi-
there's an existing sanitary manhole in the back of the neighboring property. And proposal is to extend the sanitary sewer main across the back. And 6 trees are being removed for the sanitary line.
Right, and I think you may have just misinterpreted the ordinance because you can't take 6, subtract 5, and say, okay, I have 1 that I'm going to remove, and therefore I'll apply the tree replacement formula. So the same would be true for 834. You would actually need to replace it with 8 trees. And, let's see, right now you have 1 tree that you're replacing it with, so it doesn't work quite that way. Would the others agree, or am
Oh,
I
yeah,
missing something?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian, your comps are a little bit off, and what I'm hearing from the commission is, I think they want to have those 2 heritage trees reviewed for both health and risk. You can get with me, we can look at those together, and I can
Okay.
report back, but right now, I think there's some more legwork that has to happen before this gets approved. That's what I'm hearing from the members.
Yeah, I think you have to apply the formula correctly. I think the trees that you've chosen, they look like they're off of our recommended tree list, so that looks good. You just need more of them. And to John's point, he can take a look at those 2 heritage trees. Any other comments?
Can we ask the owner if they would consider redirecting the drive to try and save those 2 heritage trees? Oh, it's planning? Okay.
Well, we could ask. I mean, that's all we're doing, just asking, we've asked many times for people to reconfigure their plans to save trees. And sometimes they can, sometimes they can't, but.
Right. And then the one other thing we haven't talked about or looked at yet is the tree protection fencing around those existing trees. And I assume that's also why John was asking about the egress pattern. Can you point that out to us, and then we'll just give you any comments on that you can incorporate for next time.
Okay. Right, so we are showing tree protection fencing along the side yard to protect these 3 trees. We have the tree protection fencing along the front here, and the other trees that we're protecting are in this area and all along the back of the property.
That looks okay to me.
It looks fine.
Okay. Okay, good.
So Eileen, you can do a preliminary approval based on compensations being corrected and the study done on those 2 trees, and that's reported back, and then I can report back to the commission.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea, John. So I would say, just to summarize here.
I would
Go
just
ahead,
say the
James.
one tree, because the poplar by the driveway, that's going to get ruined no matter what, probably.
Just
so
from
the-
egress?
You're requesting driveway change, so we don't know what's going to happen with that, so.
I'm not requesting, but if they want to vote for that, they can.
Yeah, I would say, to summarize, we'll consider this a preliminary approval. We would treat the 2 properties separate. We would apply the correct formula, replacement formula. That would require 16 trees for 820, 8 trees for 834, with the request to review the 2 heritage trees for risk, and if the owner would be so kind, they could look at their driveway where it's placed, and if they like, we would appreciate it if they could move it a little bit to save those 2 trees, but we understand this is a big investment that they're making.
I'd like to make a comment before we put this up to a vote. I would prefer that we not do preliminary approval until we have a fixed figure for replacement trees and a fixed formula for replacement trees. Not that I don't trust John, but it's a matter of, at some point, I'm going to recommend that the committee, that a form be completed showing that replacement trees have been planted or fees have been paid where in lieu of replacement trees. And for us to be able to follow up for that kind of thing, we would need, at the point we do our preliminary approval, we would need a fixed number of the replacement trees and the projected fees. So I was going to, I just think it's important that if we approve this, we're never going to see what the actual number of replacement trees are. We're never going to see, unless we work out something with John, whether the petitioner decided, now what happened, the petitioner may decide they don't want to do that many replacement trees, and they want to pay fees instead in lieu of replacements. And I want to definitely be able to track whether fees in lieu of replacements end up in our fund or not. Right now, this goes into a rabbit hole. We never get anything back. We never find out, are the fees collected? Do they go into our shade tree fund? And our shade tree fund got nothing in fees last year. As recently as a few years ago, we had many tens of thousands of dollars in fees coming in. So I would not vote to do a preliminary approval unless we have a fixed figure for replacement trees.
We would, right?
Yeah,
No.
so I think the difference would be, if we did a preliminary approval, then this project could proceed, providing the plans are redone, you meet the formula required, the 18 and the 8, John approves it, that would be that
Okay,
path
so
forward.
then
If not, the alternate path forward would be, we don't approve it, same comments, same instructions, and then you come back the end of February.
Okay, so I'd like the minutes to show in the future the number of replacement trees, which hasn't, we haven't been really making an issue of that. But I think when we make a decision and it calls for a X number of replacement trees or X number of trees to be paid in fee in lieu of replacement, that be a part of the minutes.
Yep.
So we can then follow up to make sure what happens, that everything is done appropriately into the future.
I do agree with that, because that also helps us in understanding how the tree canopy either declines
Right.
or is replaced.
Right.
So,
We
yeah,
can add
that's a
those
good
to our
comment.
numbers. Okay, Trish, you got that?
I got that, Jack.
Okay, thanks. So it's 18 and 8?
Correct. Yeah, 820 requires 18,
8,
834 requires 8, 10 are large canopy on the
10 or
first
large
property.
count. Okay, so it's 18 and 10.
No, 18 and 8, 2 properties. First property
Right.
has 18, second property has 8.
Right.
On the first property, 10 out of the 18 must be large canopy.
Okay, so what I'm interested in right here is what are our final replacement numbers for each property?
For property 820, 18 trees are required,
Okay,
18 new trees. 10 of them must be large canopy.
okay,
For property 834, 8 trees are required. 2 must be large canopy.
okay, because that's not even on the minutes here, so, on the
Well,
agenda.
that's the agenda.
Yeah, it's not even on the agenda, so that's confusing. I think also if we're going to have these dual property things, we probably need to list both properties on the agenda in the
Yeah, and
minutes.
I think that's what we just called out here. I agree, Jack. It
Yeah.
was a little confusing. We thought we were looking at one property, 20 trees removed, but really it's 2 properties, a total of 10 trees removed. But either way, I think we talked it through and got squared away.
Yeah, but I'm trying to make notes for the future. So, what address is it for the, it's 10 trees?
It's 820.
820?
So 820 Darby Paoli Road requires a total of 18 new trees.
All
10
right.
must be large
No,
canopy.
I got that. It's the other address.
The other address is 834,
834,
requires 8 new trees. 2 must be large canopy.
okay. So it's going to be a little complicated, Trish, but can you divide those two numbers up in the minutes?
Unfortunately, I have to go by the application, and if the application has 820 on it,
Right.
that's what I go by.
Well, that's why I
if
said they
it's
probably
not
should all have
stated-
been combined to begin with, you know?
If it's not stated on the application, I don't know that. So it would have to be on the application for me to put it on the
And
agenda
I
that way.
assume it's a right-of-way issue.
for the agenda, yeah.
I
But what
assume
about
it's
for
a
the
right-of-way
minutes?
issue, right?
For the minutes, though, you can do it, right? You can put both?
Yeah. Hey, guys, I feel pretty comfortable. I can work with Trish and make sure these meeting minutes document what we've just discussed. So I think we're good there. The key question now is, do we want to do a preliminary approval so that the drawings can be revised, John reviews them, and this property can go forward? Or do we want to see this property again in February?
I'd rather, in good faith, give it a preliminary approval.
I'm okay with that. Okay, sounds good. All in favor of a preliminary approval? Aye? Great, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, now we're into the world of Harvard Lane, many properties. And if we've learned nothing else, we won't combine them,
Well,
unless,
it's funny you say that. So Rob Lambert, Site Engineering Concepts here for the applicant. I'd like to spend about 2 minutes just describing what the property is. It's a little bit unique. I think we have the next 7 agenda items. And so we are going to kind of mesh them all together.
Okay.
And Lisa Thomas will be able to talk about a overall landscape plan. So in the late 70s and 80s, there were several properties in this larger property was developed. There was Harvard Lane, which we're talking about, Cornell, Princeton, and Dartmouth. The other 3 lanes got fully developed back in the early 80s. For some reason, Harvard Lane, the road was built, all the infrastructure was put in, the sanitary sewers, storm sewers, all the utilities under the road, and then they stopped. And so this was all fully graded 30 years ago, and really a lot of the trees that are existing on site are all secondary growth from that time to where it stands today. When we first looked at the property to do the survey, it kind of looked like Apocalypse Now. There was just completely overgrown and all the trees in there. So right now we do have 13 active applications because there's 14 lots to be developed. One of the lots doesn't have any trees on it, and there's nothing proposed on it yet, so that one doesn't have an active application. But all the other ones have an active application. And when we started looking at it, stepping back for a minute, if this were subdivided today, we would come in with one overall landscape plan for the entire street. We wouldn't be coming in with 14 separate landscape plans to the commission for approval. And so even though it's a little bit unusual, what we're actually proposing to do is create that one landscape plan, one comprehensive landscape plan. We have tables on the plan for every lot, how for all the removals, replacements, and we have all the tables to show that we're meeting all the quantities. But what we would like to do is to get agreement on the overall plan, and then be able to just submit on a per lot basis and not have to come back in front of you each month for the next how many ever months that we have active applications and say, we're in conformance with approved plan and we're moving forward. So we'd like to have John be able to do that administratively. I think there's some precedent in the township to have that happen with other subdivisions. And with that introduction, I'd introduce Lisa to talk about the overall landscape plan, unless you
And
have any
let's-
questions.
No, I would say, let's just pause there for a moment to confirm. Are folks okay with the proposal put forward? It's a little bit different than the property we just discussed, but this is basically a brand-new street that hasn't been developed yet, so they are proposing to treat it holistically, all the properties together. John?
Similar to what we're doing at Ardrossan.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Although, like, there is a model house, right, that's built, or
Correct, and that one was previously approved.
okay, that's been approved. Okay.
Yes.
But I just want to confirm, your proposal is basically to sum all the properties together. X
Yes.
number of trees removed, X amount
Yes.
replanted, and it's in the
Yes.
best interest of the overall street.
Yes.
Okay, so is everyone okay with that? Okay,
But it is broken out by, it's
Yes.
Yeah, I
broken
did
down
see
by
that.
lot on the actual plans.
Yes.
okay.
Good evening.
Great.
Lisa Thomas, I'm with Glack and Thomas Panzak. I'm a landscape architect and land planner. So you can see this color rendering here. This gives you an idea of what I'll call the site landscape master plan in looking at the property as a whole. In general, the design concept includes a number of different components. We've got street trees. We've got on-lot landscaping. We have buffering between the individual lots to provide privacy for each of the homeowners. We have buffering along the exterior of the community to provide privacy between the existing lots that exist. And we've also looked at the southern portion of the property, you can see the stream that goes through the site. And we've also looked at the riparian area there and are proposing some riparian enhancements within that area. We wanted to be able to fully landscape the whole site and to consider the whole site from a master planning aspect. So that gives you a high-level concept of what we're doing. On this plan, we're showing, I'm going to move it up. Overall, what's required on each lot for replacement trees. That's a summary chart. And then I'm going to show you one other thing, and then I'm going to back up because I wanted to go over a meeting we had with John Hosbach today on site and with Matt Golis. So we'll keep going on this master plan a little bit. If you turn the page to your plans, look at LP2. If you look at LP2, the second sheet, you can, this is our calculation page for each individual lot, to give you an idea of how everything adds up, okay? And our tree planting details. Does anybody have any general questions about the overall plan? The master landscape plan. Basically, it's all the new plants are the darker color.
I think, Lisa, what's happening up here is that normally I get a set of the plans because I do the site visits, and the rest of the commission doesn't. And I think with this amount of detail, it's very hard to read the specific stuff up on the screen. So I see some people having some trouble. We're trying to cut down on the waste of paper here, but
Yeah,
in
just
this case, it would be nice if people had
Yeah.
plans.
Just for future reference, I haven't been able to really follow plans with the way we're doing it now, because on the screen, it's not in focus. You can't see the small things. I can't see it up there. So I haven't been able to really follow the plan, except depending on you guys, really.
Lisa,
And-
if I may, why don't you just walk them through some of the species, what you're doing, your streetscape, your buffers, that kind of stuff? Give them a little history of what's going on there.
So this plan on the screen is mostly to show you where the trees are from a design standpoint and to point them out, so you can get a visual where the lawn areas are, where the homes are, and where the road is and the street trees, et cetera. What I'm going to do is, I'll take your suggestion in 1 second. I do want to skip ahead a little bit and talk about our site meeting, or this morning with John and Matt, and then I'll hand out the plans, okay? So my partner, Chris Garrity, who's right here in the front row, met with Matt and John this morning to do a site visit to review the plans and the site. What was uncovered was that there was some measuring discrepancies in the caliper, and John had noticed, I believe it was 8 additional heritage trees on the site. They were previously on the plan as 28-inch calipers, 26-inch calipers, so it was a small measuring differential. So what we did this afternoon was we corrected the plans, and I'm going to hand those out for you to look at, and you'll be able to see very quickly where the corrections are. Everything adds up, all the charts are updated, and the plan is updated. But I wanted to keep this up so you could sort of visualize what the site looked like. So of the 8 trees, 6 of the heritage trees are going to be removed. And we've taken that into consideration. In general, I'll talk about our street trees a little bit. We have a combination of different types of street trees. We have London plane trees, red
Lisa,
maples.
if I can interrupt you, before you go there, because we are typically focused on heritage trees, can you just point out those heritage trees that will be removed? It will help us understand, for instance, if it happens to be right where a house is going, then it will be easier for us to understand why you're removing it.
Would it be easier if we got these replacement formulas now, while we're talking about it?
You have the, there we go.
Okay, this plan shows, you're going to get this, the highlighted plans are the additional plantings we're putting on to address the heritage trees, okay? And then I'm going to go over here, without the mic probably, and point out where the heritage trees are, okay? There's one right here. One right here is staying. There's one right here. There's a group of 4 right here, one of which is staying. And there's another one right here. Okay, so
Why, where the 4 are, why is just one staying there?
there's there's grading right here, a swale and a slope that goes like this. Actually goes like this.
And 2 are white pines and 2 are spruce. And the condition of the trees was, one tree was very good shape, the other's average at best.
Okay. Any questions about where the heritage trees are?
No, I think that's helpful.
Okay, good. All right. Do you want to, I'll hand out the plans now. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Chris will hand out the plans.
Thanks.
So on the first page, you can reference where the added trees are based on our site visit this morning. Our street trees include a mixture of London plane trees, red maples, swamp white oaks, and zelkovas. In general, our evergreens include green giants, Techni arbs, Norway spruces, oriental spruces, and some Nordman fir. We were trying to get a variety of trees in there. Obviously, where there's tighter spaces, we're using the arborvitae because of the narrowness and the compactness.
My only comments on the tree list is a good list, is that the honey locust, in my opinion, is a tree that should be subbed out for something else, and the river birch is going to struggle in this environment, I think.
Okay, we're happy to do that. Right now, we have 7 honey locust and 11 river birch, so we can sub those out.
Lisa, when I look at this, I have trouble seeing how many trees are being removed. I can see the trees, the new trees going in.
You mean on the drawing, you can't see the trees being removed?
In
Or
a
in the
table
charts,
format.
in the charts.
Yeah, because your first page has on it the replacement trees. That looks good, but I can't tell. How
So
many are being removed?
If you look at the left-hand side of each chart,
Mm-hmm.
all the small charts per lot, the first column says trees, TBR.
To be
trees-
removed.
Right. That's your list of trees that are being removed.
And it assumes one of each. The quantity is one, I assume.
Yes, yes. If you go, yes. If you go to the next column, it gives you the required replacements. So you'll notice that there's 12-inch, I'm looking at lot 40, and I'm seeing a bunch of 12-inch maples. So we listed them all individually. Each tree is listed individually on the chart.
Okay.
Lisa, can you describe to the commission a little bit about the condition of the environment in terms of its tree quality? Because this site has been 20 years or 17 years, it had been cleared, I think, at one
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
A lot of trees regrew in some weird way.
Yes.
There's
The soil's
the so-
suspect.
The soil is tough.
It's not prime soil.
The vining is immense.
There's
on-
vines on everything.
Okay.
It looks like Planet of the Apes, basically, out there. The quality of the trees is not stellar. Some of the trees are encased in vines. You know, it's hard to tell this time of year if they're even alive. You know, there's so many vines, you don't even know if it's alive. It's just, there's really nothing special about the environment out there. This development is long past due. It was already approved to be developed. So we're basically replacing trees that are subpar and were never there to begin with. So it's not a pristine, undeveloped piece of land. Just to give you an idea. Does that match up with what you saw out there?
Yeah, you know, I don't want to jump ahead, but that leads me to another concern, and it's the number of trees that are shown on the plan in a bad soil environment. People, whoever moves into these places are going to have to be tree advocates, because to care for this many trees and make them all live, to me, is almost impossible. And you know, I would wonder whether there's not whether it might not be better to have a different type of replacement formula, which is odd for the Shade Tree Commission to be suggesting less trees. But could we put in trees that are more canopy trees, less evergreens? I mean, some of these evergreen hedges are so thick, these trees are not going to make it. I mean, they're going to shade out each other. So I guess that's what my point would be, could there be a better tree planting plan for this development because of its conditions? And because to me, it just seems like it's too many trees in straight lines.
So what Matt was saying today, Lisa, was he's a little concerned about the quantity of trees going back in that site. So one solution I'm thinking of is maybe we can reduce the amount of canopy trees going back in. Obviously, you need your buffer trees because of the project, but maybe we can enhance or beef up the riparian right away along the watershed and try to beef that up, put some larger trees in there, maybe some containers instead of whips. Maybe try to work with that a little bit.
I guess, Lisa, a question for you. When I look at your table, it does look like the exact number of trees required per our tree replacement formula are the exact number that you're putting in. Is that what's driving your landscaping plan, is that you're required to put in 356 trees? Or would you do that anyhow because you think this is aesthetically
I would do
pretty?
less. I would
Oh,
not do
okay.
this much.
Okay.
I'm meeting your code.
Okay.
Okay, that's what we're doing. The code says to do this, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Our client is very interested in moving forward, and she was very focused on thinking about changed her direction instead of coming in piecemeal, lot by lot. It was important to her to view this as a community
Yep.
and to do a master plan. So she's actually stepped back and slowed things down a little bit, and she really would like to be able to move forward and to meet all the code and all that. If there's an
Sure.
alternative idea, I would respectfully ask that we have a preliminary approval on this plan and then work something out, maybe work with John, because we don't want to lose any time on this. And we've spent a lot of time already carefully thinking this through and looking at it as a whole and coming up with a master plan.
Right.
We have an extensive plant list. We've been, very
Yeah.
thoughtful about what we've been doing, so.
Well, you can contribute to the shade tree fund in lieu of planting. So if you, the
I
two main
think that we would like to take the benefit of the plant material on our site instead of contributing to the shade tree. If we're having trees, we would like to have them for us.
Yeah.
That's, because it helps the community,
Yeah,
it's good for
sure.
sales, and it's, that type of thing. So the
Well, if they're not
contribution isn't.
concerned about it, I don't use,
Oh, I'm only concerned that this mass of trees could be unhealthy in some spots on this plan. And if you look at, so Bryn Mawr Avenue is on the lower end here. So Bryn Mawr Avenue is where there's a lot of riparian, overgrown, weedy, sort of viney areas. If they had more trees there, it seems like
Yeah.
it would block Bryn Mawr Avenue from the folks living in this development. To me, it's just moving some trees around. Getting rid of some of the straight lines, the density.
Yeah, I can see how that could be desirable. Unfortunately, we don't own that land. We only own the lots. So we don't have the ability to do those plantings down along Bryn Mawr Avenue. It's just not
is
possible
that
for
township
us.
land?
It's not. No,
Privately owned?
it's privately owned.
Is there any plan to enhance the soil, to Matt's point, that some of the soil conditions are not conducive to helping support the life of these trees? Is there any thought to maybe doing some soil enhancements when you're doing this building project?
They're just going to do the grading, the earth moving, and all that type of stuff. There'll be topsoil put on the site.
Personally, I think that if they have a plan that they think will work, if it's a little overcrowded and we lose some trees, it's still a plus on the whole. And that's life, all the trees you plant don't make it, even in the best of circumstances. So they'll do their best, and as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be a lot better situation than vine-laden, overgrown, weed trees there. So if they decide they'd rather try to do it on the property, that's their prerogative. If they lose a few, then the homeowners can deal with that.
Well, I'm certainly not interested in stopping the progress here because I have a aesthetic problem.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm okay with what Lisa is proposing, with the idea that they've weighed the pros and cons. They could pay the fund, they could have less trees, or go with
Weigh the fund,
the
yeah.
code as is. And I do like the holistic plan. I think that's a good approach, and if this is what they want to do, I'm okay with it. It looks to meet all our requirements.
And I believe if they want to work out, if you want to work out something, that riparian right away, if you think you might be able to work out something with that owner too.
Probably just want to get
Because
going.
it would help the whole area.
Without taking your whole evening to explain the complication of the ownership of that parcel, I'm not sure that that's
Yeah, a viable
a
option.
viable option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did a great job here, the plan and
Yeah.
everything, how you guys did the replacements and everything.
Yeah.
Good job, Mr. Spellman, before, came up with our recommendations last time, so
Yeah.
I think it was they've gone the distance for this, I think.
Yeah.
I would agree. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, motion to approve
Thank you
all of
very
those
much.
on Harvard Lane.
Thank you very
Aye.
much. Really
Yep.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good luck with the project.
Really excited.
Yep. Okay. And
Getting us going straight.
yes, exactly. And that, my friends, takes us to the end of the new business part of the agenda. All in one fell swoop. Okay, so next on the agenda then is item 7. Whoops. Actually, item 6. It should say 2019 goals. So this is the time where we cover, by looking back at 2018, what do we want to do in 2019? And that's attached at the back. And my proposal would be that we just use this more so as a brainstorming session, put everything on here, we can process it, and then in February, we would look to finalize our goals. Does that make sense to folks? Okay, let me just hop over there. Okay. So maybe we start from the top, go through what we have there, say what do we want to do for 2019, and then we can add on additional ones that aren't even show up on 2018 at the bottom. Does that make sense? Okay, so the first one is implement the master shade tree charter. I would propose we keep that on board for 2019 since we just got about halfway through in or just scratched the surface really in 2018.
Right, and the only update would be that as soon as we get leaf matter, we start surveying again.
Yeah.
And we will have another survey tool, a second survey tool. So if anyone's interested in being part of a team, another team of surveyors, I'd love that because that way we can start to get into the parks and areas that we otherwise couldn't look at, so. And we're not going to, there won't be an analysis, a full analysis of what we find until we have a little more volume.
Right, true. And then the second part of that goal was to come up with a plan. So I do think we can tackle that this year. We have funds in the budget, so we should be able to come up with a plan to start actually doing replacements. And I think at this time, I'll give you a bit of good news. So Gretchen from the Radnor Conservancy, Gretchen Goebel, was here at the start of the meeting. She left me a kind note. The kind note says, "We are very interested in helping the Township and the Shade Tree Committee to plant more street trees." Basically expand the program that we run in the fall, where typically we plant about 40 trees. They could possibly pay for an additional 20 to 25 trees. So they would look for us to do the execution, but they would be willing to fund 20 to 25 trees, which I think is wonderful.
Yes.
So that gives us more opportunity to figure out where to plant them. Okay, good.
So Matt, you think you'll be able to finish the whole inventory as a goal this year?
I do, but I don't think John agrees with me.
Lofty goals.
Yeah, well, you got 50% of the way through, basically, with one team in 2018, and you have 50% to
thinking.
go. If we have 2 teams in place or more, that would be great. Okay.
Is there any area now that you think need trees planted?
Oh,
Is
yeah,
there- you have a sp-
Garrett Hill is brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
Garrett Hill is really in need of, they had a lot of old trees that they lost. And then, and just by getting, mature trees went, there are streets that just don't have any trees. And
So do you think by April we could get something done? And I'd be
think
willing
so.
to get some people together, or myself, if
Yeah.
anybody else wants to. If we could just get like, say, $1,000 from our fund,
Right,
I can go purchase 8 or 10 trees, we plant them,
yeah.
and, you know, we could probably get 8 trees in
Yeah.
this spring.
Yeah, I do think that's an interesting idea, is to do a spring and a fall planting.
Yeah.
And the spring could either be, I don't know, large trees, or it could be smaller trees that go underneath wires, but I don't think we have to wait all the way to fall.
Yeah, and the large tree, how many did we do, do you know? Because it looks like they only spent about $12,000 or something.
Yeah, I think we did 38 total.
Oh, really?
38, sorry about that.
For the 12,000, or?
That's right.
Yeah, usually it's
good.
about $650 per tree. But one of the things Bill Thomas told us from Chanticleer, because they donate money to the township around in the neighborhood of $25,000, is that we could also look at bare root trees. Like if we want to stretch our dollar and have it go further, it's just, his recommendation was if you do that, absolutely have it planted by professionals, because if not, it could potentially dry out and then, you know, you wouldn't yield anything from your investment. So that's another option we could consider. Okay, but in either case, it sounds like we're all behind keeping goal number 1.
Yep.
We'll complete the tree inventory, we'll make that a stretch goal. We'll create a plan to address the gaps and target spring for the first planting. Okay. Okay, and then number 2 was keep the ordinance current and effective. So just to jog people's memory, we did the recommended tree list, so that part is done. That should be current. Implement the bamboo ordinance, that's still open. So I would say we keep that on our list. Help residents, developers, contractors follow the ordinance. Part of that was through like the education that Ginny led through the communications and getting that up on the website. And then the last one we added during the year was to add a new goal is to actually update the ordinance. And Joe had volunteered, he's not here tonight, but he had volunteered to be the lead on that for 2019. So any additions there or any thoughts there?
Just wanted to give the commission an update and working with Trish and Jim on our website updates. They did come back to me with comments and I responded. So he's now working on my response. So what would you say, Trish, maybe another month or so?
I would hope that he would have it done for our next meeting.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be great.
So I think once we have the website up to date, then maybe we could start talking about doing some flyers and some advertising and education via like the Radnor magazine or maybe even in the Suburban and Wayne Times or something like that. That might be a conversation for us to have.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the Shade Tree, or not Shade Tree, I'm sorry, the Radnor Conservancy left us their newsletter because they're always open to helping us educate residents as well. So this is another good way to get the word out.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
As far as your updates, could you describe a little bit more what those are, Jenny, the update to our website that you're getting, where you're finalizing them?
It was a few weeks ago that I did it, Jack. I'm not sure I remember everything. It might be easier, and it probably would be good for the whole committee to see it. Why don't I send you?
Yes, that's kind of what I was getting at.
Something in writing.
Yeah.
How's that? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Goal number 3, this really was the heart of what Ginny, Joe, and James were doing. Serve our residents via proactive communication. And underneath this, we had increase education and awareness to help keep and improve the Radnor tree canopy, increase awareness as to why you even want a tree canopy, why it's valuable, make it easy to obtain advice, advise residents during construction projects, and make residents aware of the spring and fall tree giveaway. The spring done by Radnor Conservancy and the fall by the Township. So I think we made a lot of headway on that in 2018. I think it's more so we need to continue that in 2019.
We accomplished maybe the first part where we did get our flyer together and did get a lot of those talking points addressed. And now it's just a matter of the second half, which is implementing it with the awareness piece.
Right. Okay. Number 4 was balance the budget. And this was really 2 parts. One was obtain grant funds, which I thought was a great idea. Jack, you really initiated that in 2018. I would vote for continuing that in 2019 and see if we can actually obtain some grant funds. And then this, yeah.
I'm for that.
Okay, that's great. And then the second part was basically comes more so at the end of the year, providing estimates that would go into our actual budget request, which we did in 2018. We're going to have to do that again this year and justify why do we need, the funds that we have. Another part of this could be actually to spend the money that we have. I think in looking back at previous budgets, we typically have like a carryover. So we don't utilize all the funds that the township budgets to us. I think we could make that a goal, like, hey, let's go ahead and do the spring planting. Let's be aggressive in the fall planting and actually use the funds. Okay. Any other comments in regards to the budget or this area?
I was just a little disappointed after your wonderful presentation that we didn't get a little more funding this year.
You know, I gave that some thought. I'll give you my perspective on that. And I talked to Bill White as well and Steve McNellis, because realistically, we asked for $1 million, but we didn't care where that $1 million went. It was just regarding trees, and we just wanted Radnor to put aside that money. It didn't have to necessarily come all to us. In fact, about $800,000 was earmarked to remove hazardous trees, which actually would be in Steve McNelis's budget, which is Public Works. Because it's much more expensive to remove a hazardous tree than it is just to plant a new tree. So about $200,000 would be us, our budget typically, and we got $100,000 of that. So I thought that was pretty good. We got 50% of it. I think it gives us a good chance to show what can we do with that 50%. Like, can we regreen Garrett Hill, let's say? Can we come up with a plan to regreen other bare spots in the township? And then I think that makes it easier to request funds the following year as well.
I agree. If we can show substantive use
Yeah.
and show that we greened Garrett Hill with the money you gave us, I think that bodes well for us to get additional funds
Right.
and maybe additional increase of funds.
Right. The other thing I think we can do is, you know, not all those hazardous trees are going to fall in the right of way. So we could look at proactively notifying residents and neighbors that, hey, you have a hazardous tree, here's a list of contractors to remove them. And maybe that way people take down trees before they fall on the wires and we lose power. And then, you know, we stop the vicious circle of people removing trees because they're concerned about, you know, losing power or safety. So, Lisa or Richard, do you want to add any comments, you being, you know, the approvers of the budget?
Yeah, you know, with regards to the budget, we definitely face some challenges as a board. You know, there are many priorities and many asks out there. So, you know, as a board, we've started actually about two weeks ago, last week, I forget what day it was, we'll be meeting on a monthly basis where we're talking about all the various challenges to the budget, things that we need to be looking at, areas of new revenue, things that we need to address. You know, everything is on the table, and it's certainly not easy for, you know, the board to say no.
Yeah.
We'd certainly like to have as much money as possible and give, you know, and grant everyone's wishes, but, you know, that's not always going to be possible. So, you know, we're continuing to look at it and work together as a board and with our township staff, and we certainly understand what, you know, your goals and objectives are, and they certainly are, you know, they're wonderful, and, you know, as we move forward, we'll be looking to fund, you know, where we can and when we can. So it's definitely not off of our radar. So, you know, we appreciate that, and you put forth, I thought, a very thoughtful plan, which, you know, gives us something to work from. So we appreciate that.
Great. Thanks, Lisa.
I guess that's a way we're looking at all the asks, and there's a lot of asks, so we'll see what we can do. On the other issue, the allowing the constituents to take down hazardous trees, I would encourage you to facilitate whatever I can do to facilitate that. That's one of the best things that we can do. We identify an issue, allow the folks to do that without fear of any reprisal or payments, or just, you know, the issues, if they can help, I think it makes a difference for safety as well as for power outages, which is a major issue. And if we can avoid that and let people do that work, we should facilitate that. So I appreciate anything you could do, and anything I could do to help that.
While we're on the budget, Eileen, you sent out a budget summary. Did everybody get that by email? Now, that shows that we didn't have a normal expenditure of 83,000 for the street program. Is that still to come, as far as the commissioners know? Will that be charged, put on later, or was that not taken out this year?
I think, Jack, you're talking about the 83,000 that was put aside for the Wayne Business District
Is that what that was?
area? Yeah, that's what that was.
Okay.
But that project has become much larger.
Right.
Oh, thank you, Trish. That's more in the neighborhood now of 3 million, at least per the ask that Christopher Todd gave last year at the budget meeting. So that would not come out of our budget. That, my understanding is that will be a separate project.
So that should beef up our budget, because our budget is,
This way.
looks like from the final ending budget for 2018 was 49,000 for the BOC amended budget. Oh, for 2017. Okay, so it's about the same as for 2017. Okay, my fault.
That's okay.
I'm looking at those columns as being different years or not.
Yeah, what's interesting is in 2017, if I'm reading this correctly, we spent about, let me move all of it. We spent 33,000.
Right.
And this year we have a spend allowance of 102,000. So that's what I mean. We do have an opportunity to do more. One thing Bill White did caution me on, though, is that given the Wayne Business District ask of $3 million for the large project to actually redo the business district with trees and hardscaping and lighting, it's a rather large project, that some of that ask could come from our budget. We have nowhere near, obviously, $3 million, so we would be a very small contribution, but that remains to be seen what that is. But in either case, I think as we go forward, we have to ask permission to spend funds. So for instance, if we want to do a spring planting, we say, you know, we make our basically case that this is the scope that we want to do, this is the money that would need to be spent, and then we have to go to the township, I think, for approval before the PO can actually be written.
I'm not
That be included in one of our goals, is to, to schedule out asks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I put down, Claire, to utilize the funds provided in the 2019 budget, but that would be right. The tactic of how to get there is to plan out what those asks are going to be. Yeah.
And to that end, if we want to do a spring planting, I mean, that spring comes fast when we only meet once a month. And I'm just wondering if maybe James and Matt could get together and ascertain, how many trees can we realistically, do we need ideally in Garrett Hill? And then what our ask would be to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I think also, Matt and James, when you look at it, I would be a fan of looking at large shade tree canopy trees as well as smaller trees in case they have wires. We could look at both. And also, we talk about Garrett Hill, but if there's also another area that you can already identify as a bare spot, we could tackle 2 areas potentially.
About that area, Matt, the gentleman came in to us. Yeah. Wasn't that an area he was concerned about, all the
Yeah,
trees had fallen down?
There are some trees near Lancaster like in that Farm Road area that are really have gone away. So, and then being that close to that big road is an issue for a lot of residents because they're facing commercial properties and stuff. So yeah, those are the 2 areas really.
Is this for like township ground or private property planting?
Well, I was just looking at, the health strips and streets, we're just really looking
The
at street
right-of-ways and stuff? Okay.
I mean, another issue that is another tree replacement issue that's going to confront us is the number of ash trees in our parks is enormous. There are fewer ash trees on our streets than in our parks, and when they go, we're going to have, where we had nice copses of trees, we're going to have nothing. And then, as Jack says, you know, in parks where there's vining's killing trees too. So some of the replacement thoughts should be probably, you know, working with Parks and Rec and talking to Parks and Rec about that. But
Why don't we stick with parks for the spring? That way we don't have to get residents involved and try to, you know, with the amount of time we have.
The only thing is, originally in our charter, we said we would prioritize the streets as Phase 1, the parks as Phase 2, with and we would work from the inside of Wayne out, so that the most residents would have the benefit, you know, where it's the more densely populated. But
What's the process? Can we just go and plan, or do we have to get permission?
we have to get permission. Well, one, we have a kind of, one, we need to get the funds from the township. Even though it's in our budget, we need to get them to allocate the funds. If it's over a certain amount, we have to do a competitive bidding process. And then if we're planting, even in the right-of-way, one of the things Matt and I learned from a seminar we went to when they did this in New York City is it's best to ask the residents' approval. You know, so that because you're counting on the resident to do
something, yeah.
to do the maintenance. They have to do the watering.
Yeah.
So we would want their buy-in. So it looks a lot like the fall tree planting just in spring. And it's just that instead of opening up to the whole township, we would target, you know, certain neighborhoods that we know are rather bare.
Eileen, does our goal change since the WBA has changed their goal for the WBOD, you know, the overlay district, if that's a different project?
In my opinion, it doesn't change, because last year we knew about that, and Matt, for his survey, left the Wayne Business District area out of scope. So if anything, it kind of gives us, maybe we would have tackled that first, but it gives us more funds now to tackle everything but that area, assuming, you know, they'll take care of that.
I forget the name of the person who organized our tree planting. I don't remember her name, but.
Kimberly Donches?
Yeah, Kimberly Donches. Now, she constantly opposes picking streets, like what you're suggesting in Garrett Hill, and I agree totally about Garrett Hill. The whole area is terrible shape as far as and the property owners there, a lot of them are very resistant to planting trees because the lots are so small. And, you know, and her feeling is that other areas of the township feel like they're left out if we pick a certain area, even though it's more in need. So I'm just letting you know that's the resistance. I personally have been hoping to have the Garrett Hill area replanted, Lowry's Lane, right along the park there. There's nothing. There's not a tree there, and there's no wires. And there's no wires on one side of Lowry's Lane either, and it's lost, you know, scores of trees in the 20 years I've been there. But the people, there has to be some buy-in, I think, from the property owners, and that's a complicated thing. So there's obstacles to that. Yeah. So you'll say, well, we want to do Garrett Hill. Well, once you get with Kimberly, she's going to say, I don't agree with that. And she's been running that operation. So right now what they're doing is they have people call the township who want trees. And generally speaking, they use up all the trees. So there's nothing to say that if we increase the number of trees for that planting, that people won't volunteer and we still won't get them all planted. But there are people who want the trees.
Yeah. I mean, what we could do is, we could run a spring planting that would look a lot like the fall planting, but it could have large shade tree, canopy trees, as well as smaller trees to go underneath wires. We could somehow encourage those neighborhoods that have bare spots to be the first on the list. Like, so for instance, let's just say hypothetically we have 40 trees in the spring, 100 people apply for trees. We could look at, hey, if you're located in more of a bare spot, then we will prioritize the tree for you, versus if you're located in a spot that has lots of trees. We could take that type of approach. And I do agree, Jack, ultimately we need people who want to have the trees. because we don't put any money into maintenance, so we need the neighbors to want the trees and be willing to take care of it. So,
And I think the whole educational aspect of what Ginny and her group is doing plays into that. Where, you know, people become more aware of the benefits of having trees and, you know, I mean, I've talked to tree guys who say some people hate trees. They don't want leaves in their gutters and they don't.
I'm doing an unofficial study of that, why people hate trees. It's really amazing.
And who'd you say has to approve, the township administration or the Board of Commissioners?
that I don't know. I just know for sure, if we want to spend money, it has to go through, I think, the engineering department.
So, in order to spend money, you need a purchase order first.
Uh-huh.
So you would have to request that through engineering. We would submit a requisition, and from there, it gets approved or disapproved.
And
With the-
anything over $7,500 in terms of hiring a contractor needs 3 bids.
How much was it?
$7,500,
7,500.
correct.
Okay. That's a pretty low threshold, so we.
Yeah, and that has to be approved by the commissioner, yep,
Approved by the administration or the board?
the board.
Yeah, if it's over 7,500, it comes to us.
And would you guys be on board for this? Putting you on the spot here.
Well, neither Rich nor I can speak for the entire board, so, we'll put something together and bring it to us for consideration.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to stop the Shade Tree Commission from fulfilling its budget and spending what it has in its budget.
Okay. Okay. Good. So it sounds like where we're landing is Matt and James, let me think about this. We'll still go forward and create a plan to actually regreen areas that are bare. We'll look to do a spring tree planting that looks a lot like the fall planting, and we'll prioritize those requests that are in bare areas versus those that are in greener areas. And maybe we should reach out to Kimberly Dawn just to say, how do we do this for the spring?
Do you usually set up the fall planting? So you know the whole process and everything? So could we work with John as well to just get it done? You think? Would that be good? We'll all work together. Is that all right, John?
Absolutely.
Cool.
I think the big part is just getting the word out. Yeah, that these trees are available, because the other thing is the Radnor Conservancy will do a tree giveaway in the spring as well. So it's just getting the word out that they're available so residents even know to apply. And I think that's what we'll have to figure out. How do we do that?
That's our first educational flyer.
Yes.
Put it in the Radnor magazine, put it in the newspaper.
Yes. Ginny, that would be great.
Okay, I'll work on something like
That
that.
would be great, yep.
When we say spring, are we talking March, James, April? What are we talking? April?
April or May, but you want to lock somebody in by March. So you can get the orders into the nursery, and it's the busiest time of the year for most contractors, so.
Okay.
you wanna get somebody on board for that.
Okay.
Could I also suggest, certainly utilize the commissioners? I think pretty much all of us have some sort of newsletter or communication that goes out to residents, and, if you share the information, I know I'm glad to put it in my newsletter, and I'm sure that, my fellow commissioners, board members are willing to do it as well. So
Yeah,
absolutely, I'm always looking for stuff for my newsletter.
We're happy to help out. That's great. That's a good offer. Thanks, Lisa.
And the township Facebook page too, I think.
Okay.
Might hit some people.
Ginny, are you okay to take the lead on that?
Okay with that.
Okay, super.
Did you look at this? Why is this 25,000 missing? So that you got original, amended, then full year actual. Minus 100%.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look or give it more thought.
Because I'm trying to make sense of the whole thing.
I think it's because we probably didn't need it. Jack's question is, looking at the 2018 full year actual, why is the $25,000 that transfer in not shown? And I need time to look at this, but my guess off the top of my head is that we did not have expenditures that required that. Because it looks like we're already carrying over 127 from the prior year.
Which goes right to your suggestion that we spend money that we have.
Mm-hmm. Right, because our expenditures were only 31,000, and without that 25,000 coming in, we had 29,000 coming in. So, I mean, it's almost a net. I mean, there's only $2,000 difference. So if the BOC had transferred in another 25,000, it would just keep adding to the amount of money that we have where it probably could be utilized elsewhere. So that's my guess as to why it wasn't transferred in.
I would think anything, you would want to confirm with Bill White. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't speculate. I would take it to Bill and ask Bill for him to explain it.
Yep. Okay, so it sounds like, going back to the spring planting, it sounds like that's what we really want to get off the ground. So we know Ginny will do the communications, the BOC will help us by advertising their newsletter, so we'll get residents that actually sign up. Matt and James will look at the overall plan, where do we have bare spots, and be able to prioritize those residents. What we have to figure out is, how many trees do we want to plant? How much money do we put against this? And I think that just to give you a benchmark, the fall planting is $650 a tree. So that's purchasing the tree and having it planted. That's how much it costs. And we typically do about 40 large shade trees in the fall. So that just gives you a benchmark. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000, a little, like 25,000.
We want to spend the same amount in the spring?
I don't see why not. Especially because we have 100,000, and that would put us just at 50,000. So I would think we would minimally want to spend that much. And then the question is, do we go the route of buying the trees that you typically see around the township that are $650 a tree? Do we look at bare root trees as an alternative? Okay, I don't know enough about them,
I would
James.
suggest
Yeah, go ahead.
to, more trees the better, but I would suggest to start right under $7,500. Use a contractor. I think they use somebody that they've been using for a long time. Get him in, get him to do a planting, just to make sure we get it done.
Right.
And instead of doing, 10 to 12-foot trees, put some smaller trees like you had asked, that you could get them for $150 wholesale. Planting cost would be $500, say. So we could get more trees planted. They're still going to grow.
Yeah, and when I said smaller trees, I didn't mean, I meant like the
Ornamentals?
spring
Yeah.
flowering trees that typically anybody with wires, they're not eligible for those
Which
large.
you can get, which will be
Are they
less
less
than
expensive? Okay.
a 10 to 12-foot
Oh, okay,
oak tree
gotcha.
or something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Why would you stop at 7,500? Why would you not?
If you have 3 bids,
I know, the 3 bids doesn't bother me so much, but why?
maybe you should get them then.
For timing reasons, I like James's idea, get them done, right? So if you could get this first one in, and then it becomes.
Next year, we could go,
Yeah. it
Yeah,
becomes-
it's a big idea.
15,000.
This is not a small idea to get this done by March or April. It's very big. So I think James's idea is to sort of do a pilot
Okay.
yeah.
and see what we get for 7,500. Get some trees in, see how it works.
And the
see what
commissioners, I know they
obstacles-
love trees, so
and
they're
then-
going to approve it
And then
right
if we want to
away.
go for a
Okay.
bigger number, we'll have some experience in getting the bid.
Could we do
I don't know, I
this?
sort of disagree with this concept, guys, because you're going to go through the exact same process for $7,500, or you're going to go through it for the same process as $25,000. I mean, if you're going to do it, why not do it for your ideal amount?
And I was kind of thinking maybe we could do a phased approach. So we get the communication out there, we get residents to sign up. If we only get 10 residents, great, we do the 7,500, that's kind of easy. But if we get an overwhelming response, then let's look to do the competitive bidding process with the idea that, yes, we would want to lock it in by, let's say, end of March. And I would think the bigger the ask is, the more likely the nurseries are going to be willing to work with us and give us a competitive bid quickly. And now that we have Lisa and Richard on our committee, I'm sure they will help us in getting a timely approval through the BOC.
Well, it looks like it's only less than 40 trees we're talking about, right? So I came up with 38.4. And I would also not dispense with the idea of the parks. I think Hartford has had a bunch of trees removed because they were sick, so
Yep.
could take some of that 38 in there.
Right, so if we don't have residents signing
And
up.
I'll raise my hand for that.
Okay. Okay, I'm guessing whose district that park is in. Okay, very good. So what do you think about taking that approach, that we try to be aggressive and our fallback is the 7,500 if we can't make it happen in time?
That makes sense.
Okay. Okay, good.
I mean, it just seems like if we put out some emails, you'd be able to get 38 people saying, you know, put that on my, right?
I would think so.
You would think.
John, do you think we can get it all done to get 38 trees planted by? You go? Okay.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah, yeah. And we could reuse the same form that Kimberly uses in the fall, where residents sign up online.
Do we have that form somewhere? I mean, that information would be helpful to develop the spring one.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. Hey,
Oh, was it on the
Trish?
website? Is it?
Yeah, it's on the website, but I know, trying to find it.
Is it on the Shade Tree Commission website?
Hey, Trish?
Oh, of course not. That would be too logical. Where the heck is it?
Hey, Trish? To leverage the fall planting form, the one that's on the website, is there a way that we can do that? Do we work with Jim, the website designer? How do we get that?
I'm not sure who has that form.
Are you talking about to advertise it?
It's on the
Yeah, I
website.
think if we let the Board of Commissioners do it, we'll have,
In the
Not-
newsletter?
we'll have 38 trees in a matter of maybe 25 minutes.
Yeah,
Seriously,
Okay.
seriously, that's what's going to happen.
That'll save us
Okay.
some advertising dollars.
But the only thing is, so let's say Lisa sends it out in her newsletter and she says, look, we have trees available. They need a place, I think, typically to go and apply. And in the fall planting, yeah.
It's here on the website. You can, it's,
Okay,
But
yeah, so
it's
if we can
weird,
just
it's not under
repurpose the
Shade
same
Tree
form.
Commission. Are you able to find where it is on the website?
Okay, so when Ginny takes on communications and shares with the BOC what should go in your newsletter, Ginny, you'll decide if you want to provide a link or how you want to collect the
Yeah.
info, but the fall planting form is available. That may be the easiest.
Yeah, well, here's another change for us, Trish. The fall tree giveaway application should be under the Shade Tree Commission. It's like hard to, you can't find it logically on the website. So I'll have to figure out where it is on the website and then get it to the logical place of the Shade Tree Commission.
yeah, it's just on the meeting minutes.
So, for my, for my purposes for the newsletter, if you wanted to send it, just, all I would do is link to it directly to the township website. That's what I do with everything, and people click through. I mean, and I can tell, like, how many people are clicking through and all that. So, yeah, it's they're not shy. And how
Good.
quickly does the Conservancy give away their trees in the spring? I mean, those trees go like that.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I put in my newsletter, they're already gone. So,
Yeah.
I think that you will have no problem.
Okay, good.
And, like I said, we can't speak for the full Board of Commissioners, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone seated right now that would say no to trees. So.
Okay, good. Okay, so goal number 1 is going to be a big one, and we're going to pull it off by spring, our first planting. Very exciting. Okay, so we made it through, balanced the budget. Next up was 5, partner with our stakeholders. So obviously, we partnered with the Board of Commissioners. We partnered with the Radnor Conservancy, Wayne Business District. Christopher Todd, I think, in that group is off and running with the BOC directly with what they want to do. And then we had left, we partnered with the Radnor Township, We have contractors and developers left. So are there more, do we want to continue this goal in 2019? Yeah, just part of good business? Okay. Number 6, provide input on key issues. This was the emerald ash borer, which we did include in the 2019 budget. Storm and electrical line concerns.
I know as part of the website upgrade, we added a link that James provided for information on the emerald ash borer. There's a paragraph written up about it, so I don't know if that satisfies input on key issues or not, but.
Yeah, I think it does, and I think we could continue that just as good stewards of a tree community. Be green and efficient. Utilize less paper, utilize resources, the engineering staff more efficiently. I think we made a lot of progress on that. Is there more to do in that area in 2019, or do we keep it on, or do we take it off?
I think when we have a project like tonight, when commission members needed to look at tables, we need a workaround there. And also James was looking at this shade tree protection, which is in blue on the maps, but it's not in, obviously it doesn't show up that way on the screen. So I'm sure there's a workaround besides giving everyone full plans.
Right.
But I think we need to think about that because it was confusing for, I think, everybody here tonight.
I have an idea. I like getting them ahead of time on electronically. Can we just have an extra set or two here so that, one, the township doesn't have to deliver them? I always feel like
Yes.
that takes away the waste. And then if we need them, just like Matt said, look, they're here.
Yeah, I think that's good, because right now, I think Trish just makes one copy for Matt. Maybe if we had Trish make 2 copies or 3 copies, and the
Have
2
them
are
on
here.
hand.
Yeah, so we could share.
Trish, are you okay with that?
Sorry, but I missed it.
Okay. We're suggesting that you have 2 hard copies available here on hand of the plans.
So we have already stipulated that there's 2 sets of plans and 2 flash drives. So we have 1 set that, in case there's a need for it, and then the other set goes to Matt. To ask for more, it's going to get very confusing because we have to change all of our paperwork.
Oh, based on what you're already requiring the applicants to
Correct.
submit? Okay, so what we could try is we could stay with the 2. 1 goes to Matt and 1 goes to this table, and the idea, could we share 2 sets of drawings when we have complicated discussions like this, and everything else we continue to do online? I'm okay with that. And maybe we kind of stand up and gather,
Yes. I mean, I agree with Jack's comment earlier. I sort of feel removed from the conversations a little bit because I cannot see the tables. I can't see the plan well enough. I don't see the color. Even if it's not as complicated and large a plan as the last one that we did. It's not really working well for me, not having the blueprints.
Okay.
No, it's definitely not working for me.
But I don't want to mess up Trish's schedule either, since we now asked her to switch and not give us plans.
Trish, what would it take to, right now you do 2, what would it take to increase it to 3?
So
That's
we-
really the request.
So they submit them, so the applicant will have to submit them. Right now, they know that they need to submit 2 copies. When they submit their application with all of their paperwork, they submit their plans.
Right.
Then I would have to tell them they would have to make another one. For us to print them, it's extremely costly. So that's why we ask them to submit those plans.
Right, so what would it take to change the ask, to ask them to submit 3 plans instead of 2? It sounds easy, but maybe there's more to it.
Well, it's easy to ask.
Yeah.
The problem is, we have to change all of our paperwork. Everything that states that they need X amount of plans
All the
to be.
requirements.
Right, would all have to be changed, and we do that on a yearly basis when we make changes to our grading permits and all that, so.
When is that?
So we just did it for 2019, so the
Okay.
first of the year.
Well, maybe the answer is that we just print them out ourselves, not to that full size,
Yeah.
but maybe 11 by 17 or something where you can clearly see.
Or maybe there's a way.
Well, we could do that, because we do have the electronic, we have the flash drive, to print an 11 by 17 shouldn't be that difficult, and it's it's definitely more cost efficient.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Maybe we could try that.
Let's try it, and then if that doesn't work.
If that doesn't work, then maybe it could be Matt, you share your drawing with Ginny and Jack, because you have the great big drawings.
Yeah, I mean, originally, the Shade Tree Commission didn't get individual plans, but they got 3 maybe for the board, and they would
Right.
group up over each plan.
Yeah, I think that could
I
work.
mean, it's not as good, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
better than what we went through today.
Yeah.
But I think that could work. Just having, Ginny and Jack, what do you think? Having, like, if Matt has the big drawing and it's spread out, are you comfortable looking, the 3 of you looking together at the same drawing? You want to try that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, try it.
Okay, let's give that a shot, and then Trish will come back to you if we want 11 by 17s. Okay. Okay. And that was the last goal. So are there new goals that we want to add on?
Well, I liked Jack's idea of that email you sent us regarding enforcement, Jack. I thought that was a good goal to add.
Thanks. Yes, I think we ought to have a goal. I think, one thing we don't, I sent out, for people, just so you know, I sent out an email on enforcement, just kind of giving some background of what's been going on before you guys all got on the commission. In terms of enforcement, a little history of that. I think we are not sort of deficient in terms of following up on enforcement of problems. It's the front end. I think we're recognizing a lot of ordinance violations, but in the convoluted process of having the ordinance investigators, John, get to the bottom of these situations, and then getting that information organized to the point where it comes back to us for a recommendation. And I think in lots of times it probably shouldn't even have to come to us. I mean, there's no reason, I think, that the ordinance. Well, we only have one ordinance enforcer on staff for the whole township. And I just think that's insufficient. So, but when it comes to the shade tree, and Trish, I'm going to give you a copy of that. I sent you a copy of that. So since we're discussing it, hopefully we can get a copy of that with the minutes, that memo I sent.
I do have your letter.
Okay. So basically, it's kind of a broken system, really. And we're getting violations, and we're not getting the fees and the fines into our shade tree commission. And if you look at previous amounts we got from fees and fines, you'll see that there's much less coming in than previously, although I don't think that's on this sheet here. It's not broken down. Oh, shade tree fines. So if you look at shade tree fines, for 2015, fees and fines, we got $60,000. 2016, we got 250. 2017, 850.
Jack, just so you know, that was one project
Yeah,
that was fined. That was
Right.
over at, I forget the name of the property, but, you know, we do enforcement daily. I mean,
Yeah.
we're called on a daily basis. Doug Meter will go out, he'll call me, say there is an actual occurrence happening. I'll
Right.
go out, measure the trees. From there, we submit it.
yeah.
Mr. Zenkowski, Mr. Orsini, from there, take it to the next step.
Sure. Well, this is, I'm, for the next meeting, I'm going to bring in some, I'm going to look at what we tried to get enforcement for 2017 and 2018. And I'm going to bring in some examples of where I think the situation broke down. Some of it was we ourselves were reluctant to, we're very, very hesitant to recommend fines ourselves. We get, it's in front of us, you know, that there's a situation that's a fine situation, we all kind of panic. We don't want to be it's not an easy situation to be in. So I'll bring examples of that too. But there's many, many situations that I've called to the township's attention, I've never gotten a response on. Whether they even found out whether it was a violation as I thought it was or not. It just disappeared completely. So in my memo, I talked about some of the reasons I think that happened. So I think one of our goals should be monitoring enforcement of the shade tree ordinance and assuring that we maximize our, our contributions for legitimate fees and fines that for situations that are occurring in the township. One other area of which is separate, which I just wrote down today, is I think we need to have a goal of measuring the canopy both yearly and overall, as best we can. Now we've talked about we're starting to make get information or measurements on the number of trees we plant versus the number of trees that are removed. So we need to be able to actually start putting those figures together for yearly, so we could say sort of based on at least the township's activities and shade trees activities, our net increase or decrease of trees for the year. Of course, there's other ways to do a measurement for the township's overall canopy, which people have come and talked about that. People that are interested in the canopy in the township have come and talked about that idea. Do we really know whether our canopy's going? Can we really say conclusively that we think it's all gone downhill a lot? And I think anecdotally, I certainly in the 10 years I've been following this issue, I'm sure we're losing canopy. And I'm sure with the emerald ash borer, we're going to be losing a lot more canopy. But can we conclusively say that? No, it's speculation. But there's ways that you can do canopy measurements. So I think canopy measurement should be one of our goals, relative canopy measurement. So so one of our goals, so I think basically come under the heading of, we talked about this mid-year, and you said you might want to include that, Eileen, which is a goal of preserving and enhancing Radnor's canopy and measuring, and providing measurement tools to determine whether that's what's actually happening with the canopy. I think that would be our number one goal.
And I'm making notes here.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing here. Yeah, I would agree with you, and I don't know yet whether that fits under our top goal of the Master Shade Tree Charter, or if it's a separate goal, but either way, I think it's a great idea. For the first time, given the work that Matt's doing, we'll know what the shade tree canopy looks like today, let's say in 2019. But you're right, we don't have a historical comparison. But that's something we could explore for 2019. Is there a way to get a historical comparison versus current day, and then a way to monitor it in the future?
Right.
Plus, right now, we're only doing street trees, so trees in the right-of-way. So it's,
Right.
That's hardly the whole canopy.
Right. Right. But that would be a start, because that's the area that we can control versus a private resident's property. like their backyard. We can't control what they plant or take out.
Well, a lot of our canopies in the parks.
And I guess, yeah, and actually, my comment is incorrect. We actually do, because the ordinance says if you remove 6 trees, then you are coming
Yeah.
here. So we actually do control that. It's just we're focused right now on the street trees. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But, you know, I would definitely be involved, be
Mm-hmm.
glad to be involved and take the point on both the enforcement part and also on canopy measurement.
Yep. No, that'd be great, Jack. And I noted both. I noted monitor enforcement of the shade tree ordinance.
Is that part of our job? If you look at the website and the shade tree overview, it says to review plans, make suggestions or recommendations, and then also to do the plan, the overall plan. I think the enforcement should stick with the township. I don't want to be involved with telling somebody they need to pay $1,000, or that's not my, none of my business.
Yeah, and I think what we have to determine in a volunteer committee of 8, we only have so much bandwidth, so where do we want to focus that bandwidth?
No, we're just, as an advisory commission, we are, certainly part of our oversight is the shade tree ordinance being enforced. It's not us doing it ourselves, but to have some kind of, provide feedback and have monitoring of whether the ordinance is being enforced or not, I think that's important.
That's being done, isn't it?
Maybe a report out from the township?
What do you mean, is it, by who?
Neighbors call in if they see something going on. They report it. That's what we've been told. Somebody goes out, they look over it, then it goes to, I guess, the manager and somebody else, and then they determine whether, okay, we're going to fine them, or are we going to, what's the
Right,
next
well, as
step?
my memo said, I've done that procedure as, from this position, scores and scores of times where the enforcement, now remember, we have one ordinance enforcement person in Radnor. So we have things like the whole Villanova redevelopment, all the tear downs and rebuilds that are being done, the business remodelings, all the Penn Medicine up there. So that one enforcer looks at all those things. So I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that when something comes, an enforcement issue comes from shade tree for like somebody cutting down a tree, that's not, and understandably, that's not a big priority. And these people are, the ordinance enforcement, so now John actually helps out with that, right, John? Right. But John, you can't do everything the ordinance enforcement did.
So no, I report, I collect data on the tree, I present it to Mr. Zenkowski and Mr. Rossini, and from there, they, you know, either fine or have them come in a meeting, there's, you know, there's been.
Yeah, I'm going to bring some examples. I'll bring examples for the next meeting, okay? And like I said, I'm going to try to get some resolution on complaints I know about from 2017 and 2018 that haven't been resolved. And
I understand that, but that's nothing to do with us, I don't think. I think we're trying to help save the trees, plant the trees. Enforcement goes over there.
My suggestion, folks, would be that, you know, the idea was, hey, we brainstormed the 2019 goals. We have a month basically to process them, and then we come back in February and finalize them. So I think I've added this to the list. I think it's, you know, definitely worth considering. James has some good points. Whose court does this belong in? I would say for right now, we just leave it on the list. Give
Okay,
it some thought, and then come back in February and decide, when we look at the whole list holistically, does it stay on? And if it does, what part do we play? Okay.
I would just say I commend the Shade Tree Commission for its passion on this and the fervor to help. There is a delegation of duties that there's legal issues with the township on who can assess a fine. I don't know that this board can directly assess a fine, but certainly I commend the efforts to be a part of it, to identify it, and then to follow up and hold the township accountable
Right.
to ensure that each incident is either addressed and reviewed and set and determined to be not an issue, or looked at and adjudged that there should be a fine, and that is metrics that you should keep.
Yeah, I agree. And, yeah, we can't assess a fine, but we recommend it. When a situation comes to us that looks like it's very deserving of a fine, then we refer that to Steve and Bob to make a decision. But then sometimes we don't get anything back on whatever happened, so we don't know, you know. And you can see from the amount we've gotten in fees and fines, probably nothing has happened. I'm going to do some detailed work on that for next meeting.
Yeah, it is just a matter of the accountability, you know, here's the items, where's the list,
Right.
you know, are each one checked off?
Yeah.
And I remember the $60,000 one was a specific issue
Right.
from the neighbors, so I think you're talking about more of the ongoing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think all of us in our neighborhoods, we see that tree's gone.
Yeah.
How does an individual know that there was conformity with the ordinance, and that's.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're not going to have a quorum now.
Yeah. I think, hey, guys, so I think we're done with the 2019 discussion. I'll email it out to everyone with Tricia's notes, and folks can process and add on as they like. I would suggest that we already covered number 7, the shade tree budget. I would suggest we table old business. It's old. Let's discuss it next month. It will
Fine with
still
me.
be old. Hazardous trees, we know, John, they're listed here. John has typically looked at each one, so I think, do we want to approve them?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
We have a quorum.
All in favor? Aye? No. Okay. And trees removed by Radnor Township. This, again, is just for our information. I don't think we actually have to approve this. They are removed. Okay? So I think that's it. Any other comments before we close? Great. Thanks, everybody. Good job.